What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave Podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network. And yes, we've made it through the HBO series Euphoria in its entirety. All of season 3 we've been covering week to week with you guys. We're excited to talk about the series finale. It was confirmed. It is the final episode of this long-lived series, 7 years on HBO. We're excited to jump into it with you guys. I'm going to be one of your hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined this time, as always, by Liz Seiko.
Hello.
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 Supersized episode of Euphoria.
Yeah.
We both watched it night of. I think this might have been, I think you usually watch it night of. I feel like typically this is the first episode all season I've watched the night it came out.
Well, good thing because literally the moment I finished the episode, I saw spoilers.
Yeah, it was all over. It was all over Twitter. Lots to talk about in this episode. We talked a little bit, texting each other back and forth today about what we thought of it. They saved majority of the story for the final hour and 40 minutes that this episode was. It was a movie. It passed your smell test of being in the perfect length of a movie that you like. So did you or did you not enjoy the Euphoria movie, Liz? How did you feel about it?
You know, it's a lot to talk about because we're not just talking about this now as a season. We're talking about Euphoria as a show and a final piece. And I think what we were kind of talking about before this, what we were texting back and forth, is that I feel like what this season gave us so far, this was a strong ending for the work that we had already seen. Because it could have been very, very bad. But for me as a watcher that loved the first and second season, I can say I'm satisfied. Am I extremely happy with how some of the storylines went this season? No. I really wish that we could have seen Nate Jacobs develop more. I would have loved to have seen Cassie go on a completely different path. I would have liked to have seen Rue and Jules connect more, and just overall all of them kind of be able to share the screen more rather than feel like everybody's in their own space. But that is separate than the finale. I think the finale really wraps up everything in a nice way. It brings a lot of symbolism. It doesn't really leave any open endings, maybe one or two, but they're not really big plots to leave me wanting more. And I can say maybe I'm not happy with how it ended. I'm more satisfied.
Yeah, I think that Rue's story is the one that obviously had the biggest through line. And I think that is what is the satisfying kind of part of it, especially because her story has a real bookend. Like it has the bookends of what the season opens up with that I didn't really think we were going to see again. And then it plays a major part in the final moments of the series.
Called it.
You did call it.
I called it.
You did call it. But everything else in this season, I just felt like was very underdeveloped. It felt like Sam Levinson was trying to tell an entirely different story and just wanted to kind of put Rue in the story because he cared about that character so much. Did you happen to watch the after
I did.
stuff?
I did. This one I did watch.
Yeah, and he talked a lot about, I mean, he was very emotional talking about the way that Zendaya's played the role of Rue, the way that he wanted to tell a story of addiction from the very beginning with this. And even his own personal struggles that he's had with addiction and how that's affected him. The interesting thing is, so after this all, like after the finale, obviously all the trades have all these big articles that come out, and all these interviews and all these, the coverage they save until the series is concluded so they could talk about it. And talking about Euphoria as a series, I think is one of the more interesting aspects of this because it's really like, one of the first paragraphs in, I believe it was The Hollywood Reporter, it says Sam Levinson never really cared much for high school. I think it's so interesting that they set the series in high school from the very beginning. And you saw, you've seen Obsession now, right? I don't want to go too much on a tangent, but something that Obsession does really well that I always wished Euphoria did, and it's the one thing I respect about what they did in this season, even though it was kind of a necessity because there was so many years in between, is that it deals in that space of like your characters are not teenagers and they're not like middle-aged people. They exist in the world of being youthful and fucking up and making mistakes. And Euphoria's first 2 seasons never felt like a high school show to me. I think so much of that was like a mandate from HBO being like, well, YA is in. So like, why don't we make a YA show on HBO, even though it doesn't feel YA at all, except for the setting is high school. That's really it. So I think that's really interesting. But he continued to say, he said he was interested in the emotional state of being young and struggling with addiction and depression and relationships. And that is at the core of what Euphoria does. And that is what, in the moments in this season, it does really well. Rue and Ali, my favorite duo in the entirety of the series, get the biggest emotional reaction from not only probably myself, but a lot of viewers over the last 2 episodes, and obviously what we get in the conclusion of this. What did you think about the way they handled Ali in the final 2 episodes in this relationship? Obviously, that starts from when he first becomes her sponsor to now he's basically like her literal guardian angel, like in the afterlife, basically.
I think it was important because if what Sam Levinson is trying to convey to the audience is the conversation and story about addiction, then you need to keep Ali at the center of it, because he really is like the route back to that world and that conversation of like, how can you save people from this? How can you even save people from this? Is it something that people can get out of, or is it just something that's always forever going to be lingering in the back of their minds? And yeah, I think that if Sam Levinson was to try and have this like stamped ending about a conversation around drug use and the question of like what drug use used to be like 20 years ago versus what it's like now, it really needed to stem from Ali's point of view. And yes, it came from the catalyst of Rue's story, but it really needed to be explained and finalized from Ali, because his character had the most experience with drug addiction and seeing so many people go through it. And I agree. I think that at the end of the day, yeah, Euphoria is about drug use. Yes, it was a fun, wild, sometimes sentimental, sometimes like hypersexual storyline, but at the end of the day, it is about the aftermath of people being addicted to drugs. I also can only imagine how hard it must have been to be writing this series after the loss of Angus. Like, I'm sure that was something that was really hard as a cast to like grapple around, because yes, you want to tell the story, but like now they've all actually had firsthand experience with it. And like, how do you tell that story without completely using like a real person too? Which I at first throughout the series, this season, I was not loving when they were referencing Fez. And before I realized what was happening in this episode, when they were saying, oh, Fez is escaping from prison, I was like, what the actual fuck are we doing?
Yeah,
I was like, this is about to be horrible. I don't like this. They're like using him. I was like, this is not good. But then the moment that I started realizing like what actually was happening, I thought it was very well done, actually.
Yeah, I feel like the relationship between Rue and Fez was really great in that whole sequence, which, by the way, if you guys are watching this at this point, I would have hoped you've watched the finale, but we're going to start to get into spoilers at this point. So if you guys haven't watched it yet, just pause this video, come back and watch it. But I think we'd at least both recommend watching the finale. If you guys have been following this whole time, or maybe you took a break, I think it's worth getting through the end for what the final 2 episodes kind of present with the show. When she's going through this whole the overdose period where she's dying, basically.
When did you realize what was happening?
It took me a while.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah, it took me a bit. It took me until she was hugging her dad.
Okay.
And I was like, oh wait, like we haven't seen this character at all throughout this entire series, basically. And like, why is this? And then I'm like, oh shit. Okay. She's totally dying right now. I had a little bit of a thought when Ali first comes out of the room and he looks at the pills and like it just continues on, because I feel like that wouldn't have been his character.
Yeah.
It felt out of character for Ali. But the stuff with Rue and Fez, I felt like was great in that moment. The stuff that didn't hit me as hard, which I think this is one of the few gripes that, well, more than few, I guess, but one of the gripes I have with this season is Rue and her mother. Because for me, like, she has the phone call when she's in the church, but there's no real connection to her mom in this season at all, that it feels a little far-fetched that would be kind of where she would be going to. Like, she's not clamoring to go home ever. That's not really what it is. She just kind of wants a normal life. All the stuff with Fez, though, I felt like was, again, it came from a very sincere place, and it came from a place that, I mean, Sam Levinson has talked very openly about how much it affected him a lot when Angus Cloud died. And yeah, I mean, I think that Zendaya has done a terrific job with Rue over the 3 seasons of this series. I think that she's the shining star coming out of this. A lot of other great performances over the years, but she's also the core of the show, and she's what drives it, and she drives it all the way through, even after her character's death.
Yeah.
When it has major implications for everything else that kind of follows. She's the central focus of this episode for sure, too. She probably, whether it's actually her on screen or it's her presence, she takes up like an hour and 20 minutes of the hour and 38-minute runtime. Yeah. Cassie doesn't get much to do in this episode at all. She gets one conversation with Lexi, which was fine. I thought it
was a little weird.
It was a weird conversation. It's again kind of playing into the spirituality part of it. I think it was actually better for Lexi to kind of. It was the first time that Maud's character had some real contemplation. Her character was really not involved much at all this entire season. The whole Hollywood storyline really didn't even need to be written into the show. Again, Sharon Stone was wasted. She was just a face that was just there to be there. And we don't even see Jules until she's painting the picture of Rue. So Jules really had barely no effect in this season at all. But again, Ali has a lot to do here from the conversations he's having with Rue. Kind of after she enacts this whole plan where she turns on Lori. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about
the beginning of it.
That's how the episode opens. We talked about how good of a cliffhanger it was last week.
Yep.
With Faye screaming for Wayne. Smart thinking on Rue's part to just grab a wrench and bash his knee in. I loved the whole opening sequence. I thought it was one of the best, if not the best, opening of the entire season for me, because it's such an adrenaline rush. Like I felt like it was the opposite of the premiere, where the premiere I was like, what are we doing? This, I was like, okay, well, I obviously know where we're at story-wise now. And seeing Rue get lassoed was just a crazy visual.
Yeah.
And then the Marshawn Lynch with the sniper, it was just great. I felt like it felt very old school. It felt like it fit the tone of what this version of Euphoria is.
I agree.
What did you think about the way that kind of everything came to be with Rue kind of fucking over Lori and her crew, and then enacting this plan for Alamo?
No, I thought it was very entertaining. I was glad that they kept the momentum going too, because I was like, I'm gonna be so annoyed if they end us on that cliffhanger of Faye screaming, just to then have to like start back to square one of like getting everybody hyped for it. I wanted them to dive right back into the drama, and so I was happy they did that. I was a little surprised by how quick everything happened though with that segment, which is why, like, after that ended, I was like, wait, so we're completely done with that storyline. I was like, we only have so many storylines left. And that's when I started really being like, I think I'm like really right about Rue. And I was like, I hope she doesn't die, but like, I really think she's gonna, because we still have like an hour and 20 minutes. Like, it literally was only 20 minutes it took for that entire sequence to die off. But I think it was really well done. I think that the only way for Lori to go out was by dying. I don't think that her going to prison would have, like, yes, it would have made sense, but then it would have left an option open for the story to continue. And I like that there was a definite finish. I think the craziest thing is that Faye and what's his name are still just running loose like Bonnie and Clyde.
They have love together.
Yeah, sure. They love each other. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, their relationship is kind of insane.
He's a Nazi.
Oh yeah, he's out of his mind. Wayne's a crazy character.
I just think it's crazy that they got away, but not everyone can die. So
the Lori sequence was crazy.
the Laura sequence was wild, but you know what? The moment she said like, "Oh, I can't go to prison," I was like, "This woman's gonna kill herself."
100%.
I was like, 100% she is. She does not seem like the type of person that's just gonna go and be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to prison."
Yeah,
that's fine.
Now you asked me the question during Rue's overdose sequence when I knew it was a dream versus, or like her going into the afterlife versus real, happening in real time. The Alamo sequence with Rue, I feel like is one of the more interesting scenes of the entire season. It starts out with him pouring cokes.
Yep.
Which I think is a very interesting, like it's already, it's weird because I go into that scene and Adewale has done, I really hope he gets nominated for it. I really don't think he's going to, but I think his work is some of the best of the entire series. I just think he's such a compelling character, and there's so much that he created in one season with that character that already made him iconic. But there was like a few moments in there where I really felt like he was doing the right thing. Did you feel similarly? Because he pours the cokes, which in the first frame of mind I'm in, I'm like, okay, he's being respectful to the fact that like she's sober. That's the first thing I'm thinking. Then he gives her these pain meds that you believe are pain meds, but you then, again, later find out are laced with fentanyl. But he even warns her. He even says, he's like, I don't want to, he goes, I'm giving you a week off of work. I don't want to come to see that you're like downing all of these. So like, don't fuck up. But obviously he's the one who laced them.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really interesting conversation. It's a really interesting sequence to try to understand where his mindset was. And obviously, I mean, I think he probably laced them because he knew she was the rat.
Yeah.
But what did you think about that whole sequence? Like, did you know that off the bat? Like, where you're like, no, like, I don't trust this motherfucker at all.
I definitely did not know that he was
drugging her,
drugging and killing Rue in that moment. I was a little sus on the Coke. I was like, why do we keep seeing Coca-Colas? Because there was it in the ambulance
too, yeah.
And then all of a sudden we see it like 2 scenes later, and I'm like, what is with all these? Why do we keep seeing like Cokes right now? I'm like, what are we trying to like get at? What is this like underlining meaning? And so I was a little sus already. But then that whole scene, the whole time, I'm just like, Rue, don't take the pill. Don't take the pill.
Yeah.
Like, come on. You've gone this entire season without going down this like drug rabbit hole. And like that, I wasn't really focused on him, more on her. I was hoping that she would be more like,
she'd be headstrong to not have to
take it. To be like, I'm going to stick on my path that I've chosen and I'm not going to take it. But she does. I definitely did not see him, though, not having that first pill that she takes being a real one, like a real Percocet, and then later on the other ones are all laced with fentanyl. Yeah. I did not see that coming.
Well, he hands her the first pill.
Yeah, well, and then he takes one too, to prove to her that like it's not laced with anything, which is crazy. But so no, I wasn't.
Bastard.
I was just more kind of like, what's with the Cokes? And then I was just like annoyed with Rue. I was like, don't do that. You've already come so far. Like, why are we regressing right now?
Yeah, it's a tough scene emotionally when you see her contemplating too whether she wants to take it or not after having a conversation with Ali. The last thing that she hears before she dies is the Bible, which again goes back to a lot of the spirituality that comes with it, and you hope that again it's a nice kind of feeling of the idea of what euphoria means in a different kind of way, that she could have this euphoric feeling as she's dying of all the beautiful things that kind of made her feel the most alive, even more than drugs. So it's sad, it's emotional, like it's one of the more emotional, even regardless of this season of television not being great, like following her character and like addiction's hard, man, and like seeing it is one of the if I for lack of a better term, better portrayals of what addiction looks like in a narrative form, I feel like, across TV and film that we've seen in a while.
Well, and it brings in that whole layer of conversation that Sam is definitely trying to point at, is that And now everybody will just forever say that Rue was a drug addict and that's why she died, because she was taking drugs. And it's like, yeah, but she wasn't just taking drugs. Like he killed her.
Yeah.
He pointedly laced her medication, and she wasn't expecting to have died. She didn't want to die necessarily. Yes, I think he's trying to separate the two, of saying there's drug addiction, but just because you are addicted to drugs does not necessarily mean that you're okay with dying.
Yeah.
And then, starting that like huge conversation of like, why are these people that need drug addicts so that they can continue their business killing the people that buy from them? Like, that is a whole in itself.
Well, Ali's whole monologue. Coleman's getting nominated this year,
Which I think he should. I think that I'm glad that we didn't just end it on the sad note of like, okay, Rue died, she's gone, and now the story's done, because the story's not done. Because if we're really talking about Euphoria, the show, being a investigation on like the effects of opioids, then we need to see the aftermath of what happens when somebody that everybody cares about dies from it.
Yeah. I kind of wish we saw a little bit more from everybody else in her life, but I also don't know how much that would have done for the overall story. I think
it would have had to been like a funeral scene. Yeah, and then I think it would have been too much.
Yeah, I think that the way Coleman becomes the main character in the last 40 minutes of this episode, I think is a very inspired choice. And I think the way that it's framed, I think it's probably the strongest part of the entire season.
I agree.
Is post Rue death, like the last 40 minutes. And it does point again to what Sam Levinson, it felt like he really wanted to do. There was another quote I had from that article where he talks about the third season was able to give him an opportunity to move beyond adolescence. He said, I just thought that if I'm going to come back and we're going to get everyone together, I'd like to explore what it feels like the Wild West of adulthood. And he's made that very direct. I mean, this show is the Wild West, or I guess it's the Wild South in this case, because they're in Texas for a lot of it. As an audience, we know that they no longer have the safety net of being able to go home to their parents' house. It's the real world. And so Ali is the most influential person in her life for a number of reasons. And getting to see, I love how we kind of mirrored both sequences. And then you see that when he wakes up, it's that awful feeling, and he's going through the same thing that we saw in the last episode of his origin with having to write her name in the book. And so then we go on this crazy crusade. Now this is a heavy, this is a whole different level of anxiety and intenseness that we get in the last 30 minutes of this episode, where Ali decides to enact this whole plan of revenge to try and kill Alamo. Mm-hmm. What an unbelievable sequence.
Wild.
Like, I felt like it was so different. Like, it felt like it was a different show, to be honest, which shout out to Levinson, but also the DP for the way that it was shot and everything. Like, it just didn't feel, it felt very different, but it also felt like it was a necessary ending. We also got a conclusion with Maddie and Bishop, which, like, I don't know, have you been seeing all that stuff on Twitter? Because they said, so when Bishop picks up Maddie Maddie and Cassie are living together at this point in Cassie and Nate's house, running a business for themselves, their own OnlyFans. They're going to
open like that
agency,
Instagram
whatever it's gonna be.
house or whatever.
Yeah. And so Bishop picks her up, and Cassie, I forget exactly what Cassie said. She says something like, just try not to think about it.
I think she says, pretend that you like him. It makes it easier.
Yeah, because obviously she's still indebted to Alamo, and she's probably enacting all of these lewd things that she doesn't want to be doing with Alamo. And Bishop, who's been another one of my favorite unsung heroes of this entire season, has not smiled once this entire season until
Miss Maddie Perez
gets him to have this little smirk. And Twitter has been rampant for the last 24 hours, being like, she knew what she was doing. Like, this like, he was not letting her die. Like, he was not letting anything happen to her. Like, he clearly cared about her. There were a few other people that also alluded to the fact that he probably felt like Rue was a bridge too far. Having to see that like someone who did put her neck out for Alamo and actually was someone that did the job the right way, and someone that was innocent in her heart was killed by Alamo. So I love that Bishop winds up fucking over Alamo in the end. And I just think the whole sequence is really, really well done. I think that the action's great. They showed a lot of the stunt work that was done, the stunt man that they had for Marshawn, and getting to see Alamo get fucked over like that. I mean, as much as I love the character, it was like the perfect ending because he's such a bastard that it was so deserving that
so deserving.
Ollie would come out on top with that.
Yeah, and it's even more satisfying because we get that final moment of Alamo cheating and shooting his gun at Ali before the bottle actually hits and breaks. And so you just know that at the end of the day, he does deserve this because he's not even playing by his own rules.
Yeah, definitely. No, I loved it. I thought it was really interesting. So then after that, we get this bookend that you called from the very beginning, in which Ali goes back to that Amish farm where Rue was staying when she crossed the border. The Miller family, it was the farmers that she crashed over there.
We're the Millers.
They're the house where the Millers. That was them. And it's heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching when you see that this young girl that formed some sort of relationship with Rue while she was staying there and admired her. And Rue talked about how it was the most beautiful place she ever visited. Ali goes there and says it's his daughter said it was the most beautiful place she's ever been. He tells them that she's passed away, and it's a complete emotional breakdown from her. And the final prayer, I think, is just beautiful. So, like, it's interesting to me. I feel like this episode had more heart than the entire rest of the season did.
I agree.
And it's hard because you want to be able to separate. Like, if I was giving this finale a score, it would be entirely different than what I'm going to eventually score the entire season. Because I felt like for 4.5 of the first 6 episodes, there's a lot of stuff that's not needed. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't play into the final plot.
Yeah.
But the last 2 episodes, which again are like feature-length episodes of television, giving an opportunity for things to breathe and not speed running us through a bunch of stuff that also feels like filler, I felt like kind of elevated it at the end. I felt like it was a good conclusion, like you talked about in the beginning.
Well, this season really does feel like Sam knew exactly where he wanted all the characters to end up. And then he was like, all right, I know where I want to end. Now I'm just going to make like a random ass show leading up to this. And it's going to be a Western, and it's going to be like drug related. And it's just going to be also talking about OnlyFans. And that's how we're going to get them all to the end. It is. Like, I just can't believe that the wedding episode is in the same season as this finale, where there's so much like honesty and heart and trying to show symbolism and like good versus evil. And then we had or not even the wedding scene, the gigantic Cassie woman walking around and
King Kong Cassie,
and like taking her top off and pushing her boobs against the windows.
Yeah.
Like, how is that in the same realm as what we're trying to talk about at the end, which is like religion, good versus evil, and like, does the government control like drugs? Like, there's so many things that he's trying to talk about, but then we get sidetracked on these things. So I agree with what you said. Like, scoring this episode would be very different versus like the entire season. Yeah.
Yeah. There were some standouts though. I think acting wise, Alexa Demi's been great throughout the entire series, but I felt like she actually even took another step up this season. There was just a whole profile on her, and she actually kind of, it was interesting. They were like, why don't you do more stuff? Like, people want to see you on screen more. And she's like, why do people care about the choices that I make? And it's like, because we like you, bitch. Like, get on more movies and TV. We love you.
Yeah, she was like, maybe I don't want to, like, maybe I like being this famous as I am, and I don't want to be more.
Which is fine. But
like, go do something else.
Go do something else. Come we love on. You, Alexa. She was great this season. As I said, the actor that plays Bishop, I want to give him a shout out because I just feel like he's been so good. Adewale, who plays Alamo Brown, he's obviously, like I said, been a standout this season. Coleman, again, I really hope he gets the most to do in this episode that he's gotten to do across the entire series. And I hope he's rewarded for it. Daryl Britt Gibson is the actor that plays Bishop. Even Marshawn Lynch in this like small role he plays, I felt like Alamo and his whole crew were really well done. And I think it was obvious that Sam wanted to move on with this show and with these characters, but he still obviously had a deep connection with Rue and like we said, addiction at the top. He had an entirely different thing written for season 3 of this, and then when Angus died, he changed a lot during the writer's strike, or right after the writer's strike. So I think I'm very interested on what that would have looked like another season 3. But
I'm sure Lexi probably had a much bigger, different storyline.
I would imagine. Yeah. And Jules. I mean, I feel bad for Hunter Schafer. I feel like she really was not given much this season. But overall, I think that we mostly enjoyed this series finale.
I did.
It was satisfying. But we're here to score the season. We're here to score the season. So because it's an encompassing score, I'll start. There's a lot of this that's not very good. There's a lot of this that feels jumbled. There's a lot of this that feels rushed. There's a lot of this that feels like just throwing ideas on the board and just randomly picking them. And it doesn't lead to anything. I think my biggest disappointment has to be the lack of Jacob and Hunter this season. I mean, I love Maude too, but Maude was always kind of the hardest thing with Maude was that the most appealing part of her character that was written into this series was her relationship with Fez.
It was the most perfect thing ever.
It was beautiful. And the fact that we don't get a conclusion to that because of the sad loss of Angus Cloud is awful. And it's nice that she was in the series, but I didn't know where they were going to go much with Lexi. Jacob, I don't even know. There's not much to really talk about with his character, with what happened. Jules is literally there to slap Rue and be naked. That's her role this season, which is crazy. But there are some positives. I did like the Western elements of this season. I thought it was interesting. It actually makes me somewhat interested, at least interested to see what Sam's going to do next, because I think that he is able to level up in terms of the bigger ideas. I would like to see his writing be more consistent. That would be a great thing for everybody. But overall, I'm going to give season 3 a 5. I think it's in the middle. I can't rate it higher than that because I feel like there are some really low episodes overall. I would say the finale is like a strong 8 to me. The series finale is a strong 8. But there's episodes that come before it that are just really rough, and I would never want to go back and watch. And for that reason, like, I won't go back and watch the series because I don't love how kind of season 3 goes. So that's where I'm at.
I will go back and rewatch season 1 and season 2. I actually rewatched them for preparation to watch this season. And I think that they really do stand well on their own, separate from this. Personally, the biggest disappointment for me is Labyrinth missing. The music, truly, every episode there's been a moment where I was like, this music, what are we doing? And like, no hate on the team behind the music choices. It is still very strong. It's just not for Euphoria. Euphoria is so specific in its soundtrack, and I think that is one of the elements that made it so nostalgic and just that euphoric feeling that people really craved and wanted from this show. And it really is in line with Labyrinth's soundtracks. So I really miss Labyrinth. I think it actually would have made this show not feel as awkward or weird in certain points if they were able to get his sound back in there, because I do think there were moments where I was like, is this scene weird right now? And I think that if they had just like layered his music on, I would have been okay with it. I agree with you. Jules and Nate, I wanted more from them. I wanted to see a bigger redemption for Cassie, but I think I just have to accept that she's going to forever do OnlyFans and live alone, and I need to like stop paralleling her and Sydney Sweeney together because for me they're just like starting to form into the same person, but it is what it is. Yeah, I have to focus though on some of the performances. Zendaya is absolutely amazing in this role. I was thinking about it on my drive over here. I was like, I truly wonder if she's going to have a role like this again, or if this will be like the role that she looks back on as one of her most ingrained inside of her. And not that Zendaya is like a drug addict at all, but I think that there was something about Rue that made her really be able to embody her. And like, I wonder if Zendaya will go on and do other TV shows or if she's going to specifically stick with film. Because I think there was just something so special about her in this role. And so because of that, I keep flipping and flopping between like giving it a really bad score or like a not bad score. But I think I have to go with my gut, and I'm going to go a little bit higher than you, DJ. I'm going to go with a 6.
I figured you'd go with the 6.
Yeah, just because I still think that she's definitely going to get Emmy nominated. I still think she could win. I think that what Zendaya does, like as a singular person, is beautiful work, and she really shows the journey that Rue goes on.
Yeah,
I think
she's terrific in the show. I think that the acting isn't necessarily the biggest problem with the show.
No, it's the writing.
It's probably the writing. Yeah, it's most likely the writing. But yeah, let us know in the comment section, what did you guys think of the final season of Euphoria? Let us know in the comment section too your overall thoughts on the series ending, your relationship with it, memories that you have of the show. We're still fans of the series overall. I know Liz and I enjoy the first 2 seasons of the show, even if we might not have loved the final season. We like the way that Sam was able to kind of bring everything together in the conclusion. So let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Give this video a like if you guys can. And like I said, comment all those memories and thoughts. Subscribe to us here at the Culture Bay Media Network. We're covering a lot of other stuff in film and TV. Week to week right now, Liz and I are also going to be covering Dutton Ranch for the next few weeks until she goes abroad for a bit. Myself, Vinny, and Sean are going to be covering Spider Noir. We have movie reviews upcoming for you guys, and we're about to be covering the Tribeca Film Festival over the next few weeks. There's also interviews on the channel if you guys want to check that stuff out. And you guys can follow us on social media. All that stuff is below me in the video, and it's also in the YouTube description. So just signing off, I'm Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Liz Seiko.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.